Hello, my name is Chloe. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm here to talk to you about the 10 books I read in July. So apologies for the different kind of bland setting. I'm currently filming a bookshelf reorganization video and it made no sense for me to, one, sit in front of blank shelves, or two, do the full reorganization excluding these books and then having to find somewhere to fit these on. So we are in my bedroom. I hope that's okay. And yeah, I'm just gonna hopefully keep this quite short. I have 10 books to tell you about. My reading was a little bit disturbed in July because I was in the US right at the start of the month. We had the 3-day weekend that was Yelk down in London, and then I've been back at college for 2 weeks doing my next lot of exams. So little bit busy, a little bit all over the place, but I did manage to get 10 books read. 5 of those were physical books, 3 of them, no they weren't, 4 of them were audiobooks, and 1 of them was an ebook. And just to discuss the ratings with you, we had 1 1-star, 2 2-stars, 1 2.5, 3 3s, 2 4s, and 1 5-star book. I'm gonna go through them in the order that I read them. So first up we have SCRIBD by E.L. James, which is my 1-star read this month. It took me my entire trip in the US to read this book. It was absolutely huge. It's like 800 pages long. I haven't finished my statistics. I haven't even written down. I haven't written down total pages. So total pages is gonna be on the screen right now. I've not written it down. But what it meant was my average pages per day was 135 and the average length of the books I read was 420 pages. I had some very, very short books, and then I had books like SCRIBD, which were about 800 pages long. If you're unaware, SCRIBD is the 3rd book in the 50 Shades of Grey as Told by Christian series. So it is the 2nd telling of the 3rd book, and it just wasn't necessary. So I have enjoyed is a loose term. I have read all of the 50 Shades books and gotten through them. I have then read Grey, Darker, and liked them-ish, but SCRIBD was just an absolute slog. I don't know why I continued reading it. Even Cole's dad told me to stop because he was like, you look bored. But I carried on and I hated it. So why I did that, I don't know. 1 star. Let's move on quickly. I'm also not very comfortable sat here, so we're definitely gonna sit somewhere different for my book haul. Anyway, the 2nd book I finished was Covet, whatever the word is, by Tracy Wolff. This is book 3 in the Crave series, and I actually didn't love this one as much. I gave it 4 stars, and I think 4 stars was generous. Hear me out. The other 2 books I have not been able to put down. They've been some of the most exciting things I've ever read, and it's been very dramatic, but in a good way. This one was just far too dramatic, and there were so many situations that were supposed to be life or death, and they still were until the last minute when everything got sorted out perfectly fine and it was sunshine and rainbows and everything was okay. And that happened a few times in this book, which is something I really, really, really dislike, because I feel like you have to have characters struggle in hard situations. If they don't struggle, then what is the point of all the build-up? Saying all this, I did settle on 4 stars because I love these characters, I love hearing what's going on in their lives, and I cannot wait to continue on with the series. This one is another chunky book. It's about 750 pages. So I started reading this at the start of June, and then had the ebook while I was away, and then finished it off in physical format when I got home. And yeah, I'm glad I read this. I'm glad I can continue on with the series. As I said, I gave it 4 stars. I did like it, but it is definitely my least favourite in this series so far. Next up, we have my 2.5-star read, which was The Castaways by Lucy Clarke. I did not enjoy this book, and looking back, 2.5 stars might be too generous. This is about 2 sisters whose names are gone from my brain. Erin, and it starts with an Al. Laurie. I don't know which one's which, but they're both going on a holiday to a remote island off the coast of Fiji. One of them doesn't get on the plane and the other one does get on the plane, and there's a plane crash and they are left, you know, cast away on an island. yeah, it was shockingly bad actually. I don't know, I've given it 2.5 stars, so there must have been something I liked about it. There was a little bit of drama, but I will say, if you want some amazing story of people washed up on an island trying to live, you are not going to get that. You're really not. And that's kind of how the story is sold. It's like you wake up on a beautiful secluded beach, the sun bakes down, a shimmering ocean stretches into the horizon. The island is as far from home as you could imagine, yet this is no ordinary escape. Day by day, the island's wildness creeps under everyone's skin, tensions and lies whispering on the breeze. It wasn't that good. I would not recommend this one. I actually ended up listening to the audio, so I didn't have to read this chunky book, but this is in the unhaul pile. Next up, another one that is sadly in the unhaul pile, I can't even speak anymore, is 3 Things About Elsie by Joanna Cannon. So I listened to the audiobook for this one too, and that's just because it's a chunky hardback that was taking up some space. So I decided to get it read while I was working and decide whether I wanted to keep it. Sadly, that verdict was no, and I gave this book 3 stars. This is about Florence, who is living in some sort of old people's home, assisted living situation, and she has her best friend Elsie, and the whole story is told as a confused little old lady, which is actually really good, but it didn't really lend itself to an audiobook because I was just very confused. Saying that, there are people that I would definitely recommend this book to. I do think it was good. As I said, I gave it 3 stars, which is a good rating for me, but nothing about this knocked my socks off, nothing about it made me dislike it either. So there are select people that I would recommend this one to. I think they'd enjoy it, but it wasn't that great for me. And I'm just going to move on because I have nothing more to say on it. Next up, we had my Patreon buddy read this month, and that was Gallant by V.E. Schwab, which I gave 4 stars. I really enjoyed this one, and I was quite worried because I haven't been a massive fan of Schwab. Some of her books I have liked, some of them I really haven't. So this one I gave 4 stars. I really enjoyed the atmosphere of this. The storyline, not so much, but I feel like it was made up by how beautiful the writing was and how beautiful the actual book is. Being the inside as well is absolutely gorgeous. So this is a story about, what is her name? Olivia, is it? Yeah, Olivia, who is in some sort of like abandoned girls orphanage, and she gets a letter telling her she can go to her family's estate called Gallant, but she has an old journal of her mother's that tells her not to go back to Gallant, and I did enjoy it. The story was a little bit weird. It was kind of her City of Ghosts, but add Coraline, and that is a vibe, like you knew what was going to happen from the start. A lot of it was very obvious, but it was just so gorgeous, and this book is so gorgeous. So yeah, this is going to live on my shelves for a considerably long time, I think. Next up, I read Heartbreak House Share by Emily Merrill, also known as A Little Writer M over here on the Booktonet. So this one I picked up on audio, and I had to give it 3 stars in the end. As I've said, 3 stars isn't a bad rating for me. It just means it's fine, it's good, but there's nothing absolutely knocking my socks off, which is a very accurate description of how I felt about this book. The character names are obviously gone from my brain. It's me. This is about a girl whose relationship breaks down. She is living and working in London, so she moves into a house share in order to be able to carry on living in London and keep her job, and makes friends with the girls in the household and just, you know, moves on with life. So that part of the book was very intriguing to me, just how you like move on after the breakdown of a relationship. I was kind of interested in that, but one thing I will say about this book reflected a lot on how the main character had established her life, and everything had been just awful because she was so old now that she was set in her ways. But I believe the main character was 23 or 22. I'm gonna say 23. And it was as if she was a 45-year-old woman and was scared to change things because that's always how she's been. But she was literally 23. I am now past that. And I feel like 18-year-old me, if you asked what I thought my life was going to be like at 23, I would not have given you the answer of how it actually is now. And I just feel like there was too much riding on what this girl had done up to the age of 23. That is only 5 years after maybe like a sixth form college or a college, and it's only 2 years after a standard university degree, and it's just too, it didn't match in my brain. She was too young to be concerned about what she'd done with her life so far. Like, you've got plenty of time left. But yeah, on that note, that's why I couldn't love it more, but also it ticked all of the boxes it said it was gonna tick. So it was good, it was fine. Next up, I read Float by Kate Merchant, and this was the book on my Kindle because it was actually an ARC sent to me by NetGalley, and this was a 3-star book all the way through until the end when I had to drop it to 2 stars thanks to the ending. So this is about a girl from Alaska. Her parents are divorced and they're both intelligent university like professors, and they're divorced, so they individually want to go different places for the summer to do whatever it is they do with their research brains. And our main character says that instead she is going to go down to California and spend some time with her dad's sister to just have a normal summer and not be away on one of these research trips. And she goes to California, but she can't swim. She's from Alaska, she's never been swimming. And she meets the grumpy boy next door. Again, all the names are obviously gone. So we know from the start what is gonna happen. We know that the grumpy guy next door is gonna fall in love with her, like of course he is. And she's gonna learn to swim, and she's just gonna love her time in California. So this was 3 stars just for the pure easiness of it the whole way through, but by the time we got to the end, there was a massive life decision. Like, I cannot express to you how big this decision was, how many consequences there would be, and how much discussion and figuring out it would have needed. But it took a single page to be from my life is over and then oh my god, my life is just beginning, and it was so unrealistic. I did say this was published by Wattpad Books, and when I finished it I was like, yes, that was very Wattpad, which is not the feeling you want from a book. The ending was too wrapped up. It was all at a normal pace, and then the end was just like, way, my life is fixed, and it was very inaccurate. I can't even tell you what I thought was missing from this book. If you watch my vlog, you might remember me saying, but I think it does give a slight spoiler. But yeah, I thought there was going to be an element to this book that there wasn't, and I was very disappointed. So 2 stars. Next up, we had my 5-star read of the month, which was One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I loved this book. It has knocked Malibu Rising out of 2nd place on my list of Taylor Jenkins Reid favourites. This is about Emma and Jesse, who are high school sweethearts. They move away to, I want to say California actually. They move away from their families, and they're just loving life. They're travelling, they're doing freelance work. They're just so happy to finally be together. And one day Jesse goes on a work trip, and while he's in a helicopter somewhere near Alaska, the helicopter crashes and he dies. So let's fast forward 3 years, and Emma is back in her hometown. She has met this guy she had a crush on when they were in high school, Sam. She gets engaged, and then Jesse called her. He's not dead. That is pretty much this whole book summarized, and that's what it tells you on the back, so trust me, it is not spoilers. And I don't think it detracted from the book at all that you kind of knew the whole plot line. This was a very good take at how much we change, I think, from teenagers into young adults into actual adults. It wasn't one to shy away from the fact that people do grow and people do change, and things don't always have to be the same, if that makes sense. I don't know, I liked it for that reason. I also liked it for the romance reasons in this. I just felt like it was a very powerful book, and I know that's not really what people expect from a nice romance, but obviously there are quite in-depth twists and turns here. I cried 3 times throughout this book, and yeah, I would fully recommend it. Just 2 more to go, we are nearly there. So the 9th book I read this month was Beautiful Bastard by Christina Lauren, which I listened to on audiobook. This was pure smut, not romance, it was pure smut. And I listened on audio, which did actually make me quite uncomfortable, but I continued on anyway because why am I like this? This book I gave 3 stars. It was fine, really, I can't find any faults in it, but I can't find anything amazing about it either. This is about a woman who goes to work for a company where she has some sort of family ties to the owners, but she is the assistant to a really high up dude there who she calls Beautiful Bastard because he's a bastard and he's beautiful. Simple as. And within the first couple of chapters, sexual relations start happening between them. And we all know what's gonna happen. It was very, very predictable, but in this sort of romance, it wasn't exactly an issue. It did everything it said it would on the tin, so 3 stars. And finally, the last book I read this month, which actually makes me quite upset, is The Existence of Amy by Lana Grace Reaver, which I gave 2 stars. I did not like this book. On Goodreads, I did refrain from giving it a numbered rating because this book was kindly sent to me by the author. I hope in exchange for an honest review, and sorry, but here's my honesty. I didn't really like the writing style of this, and I felt like the decisions made by the main character were not very believable. Saying that, I am not an Own Voices reviewer, so this is a book about somebody with OCD, anxiety and depression, and I cannot speak to any of those and the day-to-day struggles, so I would look for somebody who could if you were considering picking up this book. But this follows Amy, who is struggling with life and struggling with what others think of her because she gets invited to social functions after work and she physically cannot go. And that part was quite painful to read, actually. I feel like it really hit the nail on the head. But there was one part where she got invited to Australia, and that's all I will say, and it just bothered me because it did not feel realistic, knowing what we knew about the character. My main problem with this, though, was the writing style. So just to show you on a page, this is what a typical page looks like. So nearly every sentence is a fresh paragraph. And I found that very, very choppy and just really detracted me from the story. I didn't love the writing style, and I'm not normally that critical of writing styles. It's not my expertise, but this one just felt weird. I didn't like the writing, so unfortunately I had to give it 2 stars. Again, thank you to this author, and I'm sorry I couldn't give you a better review, but I really did not like the writing. And there we have it. That is all 10 books I read this month. We have been talking for way longer than I intended to, so I'm going to wrap this up pretty quickly because I need a drink. But on that note, what was the best book that you read this month? Please do let me know down in the comments. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!